Alright, Shalom. First, let me start by saying all praise to Yahweh by Hashem Shai, by Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well. And salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. As you can see, this is a video on, I'm just read the title, What Caused an Outbreak of Desert Locusts in East Africa and South Asia. And this the same thing that happened in Egypt back in the ancient world, and it's happening again today because it's prophecy. You know, everybody has their own take on why it's happening. You know how the news media do. You know, but those who are alive and woke, the Lord's men, you don't know what's going on. And then a lot of people that ain't in the truth know what's going on also. But let me do this. I'm gonna put a video first.
It's the worst invasion of desert locusts in a quarter of a century. Across East Africa and South Asia, the food supplies and livelihoods of millions are under threat. The situation's been declared a national emergency in some countries. So what's caused the infestation, and could it get worse? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Adrian Finnegan. They're seen as the world's most dangerous migratory pests. Locusts can swarm in their billions and, in January, densely enough to force an Ethiopian Airlines plane off course. Now they're invading Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Uganda and Pakistan. It is the worst outbreak in 25 years, and for Kenya, in 70 years. The insects can spread fast, and other countries are now at risk. The swarms have already destroyed tens of thousands of hectares of crops. Millions of people, already short of food, could face famine. Somalia and Pakistan have declared a state of emergency. The UN says that if action isn't taken fast enough, Somalia's infestation could become the most devastating plague in living memory, and it's asked for $76 million in aid to help control the outbreak. Al Jazeera's Priyanka Gupta reports.
Up on the trees and down in the fields, swarms of locusts are everywhere. 1 billion of these desert insects are sweeping across East Africa, destroying crops and livelihoods as they fly from one country to the other. 10 million people in the region are now at risk of hunger and famine.
We depend a lot on the season, and we worry that the locusts will destroy our harvest and we'll end up remaining hungry throughout the rest of the year.
Somalia has declared a state of emergency after its worst locust infestation in 25 years. They are breeding in large numbers, mostly in remote areas under the control of Al-Shabaab. And that's making it nearly impossible to fight the world's most dangerous migratory pests. The UN says the most devastating plague of locusts in living memory could be within weeks, if the world doesn't do enough to stop the outbreak.
We have about 12 million people who are already in need of humanitarian assistance in terms of food security. So it means what we are afraid is that with the invasion of desert locust that is really in huge numbers, and the quantity of food that these locusts are eating, we think that it will create a further deterioration of the food security situation.
Climate experts say an unusual bout of heavy rain in the region and a powerful cyclone in Somalia last year are some of the reasons behind the outbreak. And with more rain predicted in the coming weeks, things are expected to get worse.
The weather conditions prevail, and this breeding you're seeing here continues all along northern Somalia, northern Ethiopia. Then you'll end up having nearly 500 times the populations that we've already witnessed invading Kenya and parts of southern Ethiopia.
Desert locusts can travel up to 150 kilometers a day. From parts of East Africa, millions of them have reached Pakistan, which too has declared a national emergency. The threat of these voracious creatures feeding on farms and fields now seems more widespread and ever more urgent. Priyanka Gupta.
All right, so as you can see, the Lord taking this place up, taking this world up, taking these nations down. Let's see. I think this is one second. Hold on. All right, this I can start with this one. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 37. Hold on. Yeah, I don't want to start that high. I'm going to start at 36 just to make this point. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 36. It says, "Behold, the word of the Lord, receive it. Believe not the gods of whom the Lord spake." Right, and the reason why a lot of these plagues is happening unto Israel, because Israel is scattered across the world, is because Israel is worshiping other gods, man. And I come back to Yabashim al-Shai just to make that point. Verse 37 says, "But it says, behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slacked, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, the great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child coming forth, they slack not a moment." And this plague's going on all over the world, man, and this locust is a plague. "Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the whole and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side." Right, man, because people that die, the worst death is to be according to the scriptures, is to die of famine. A famine. And it's a lot of them nations over there that go through famine a whole lot, you know. But that's prophecy. And the Lord is using them locusts to bring about that famine. Because if they already got famines that go on over there, or already got scarcity of food, the locusts is just finishing the people off. Now it's going to be more migrations that they probably ain't going to put in the media. Like it has been. More migrations of people leaving their countries, going into other countries, man. History repeats itself, man. It says, "O my people, hear my word, make ye ready to the battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth." Right. When all hell starts to break loose out over here in America, because you got brothers that's already going through it over there, you know, you're supposed to be ready to pick up and leave. You know, you got brothers that's going through hell and stuff in their little countries and whatnot. And, you know, if the spirit get put on them to get up and leave, like it says, be a pilgrim, you have to get up and leave. He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. Right? He that occupieth merchandise as he that hath no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that shall not dwell therein. Right? Because all that stuff don't hold fast to it, because it's eventually going to be taken away. America is ultimately going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles, man. When Yahweh shall return, when all hell breaks off in these countries, you're not going to be like being able to take these goods with you. When Yahweh shall return, the way of the world is going to change, man. The way of the world is going to change. He that soweth as if he should not reap, so also he that planteth the vineyard as he that shall not gather the grapes. They that marry as they that shall get no children, and they that marry not as the widowers. And therefore they that labor in vain. For strangers shall reap their fruits, and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, and take their children's captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children, man. So it's going to be a lot of kids getting took from them, man. It's going to be a lot of grown people getting took. It's going to be all types of chaos going on in this place, man. They that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, the more will I be angry with them for their sin, saith the Lord. That's why the Lord is devastating these countries, man, with all these famines and these these race wars and these fires, etc., etc., man. Yep. Stop at that.
For Inside Story.
Well, let's take a closer look at how the desert locust can turn into a plague. It's a type of grasshopper that develops from an egg into what's known as a hopper and then a flying adult. Locusts have what's like a split personality. So when they crowd together, they go from being solitary creatures to gregarious mini monsters. During this phase, they change color and form groups that develop into huge swarms of flying, ravenous pests. Such swarms can contain up to 10 billion individuals and travel up to 200 kilometers a day.
So the Lord turned them into a weapon. The Lord turned the locusts into a weapon, man.
And they devastate the lives of rural people in their relentless drive to eat and reproduce. Let's bring in our guests then for today's discussion. From Nairobi, we're joined by Crystal Wells, spokesperson at the International Committee of the Red Cross Africa. From Addis Ababa, Stephen Njoka, director of the Desert Locust Control Organization for Eastern Africa. And in Nairobi, via Skype, we've got Cyril Ferrand, who's resilience team leader for Eastern Africa at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Stephen, let's start with you. Why are locusts swarming in such great numbers this year in particular?
Thank you. This is a special year. This is a season where the locusts have bred very successfully on the Red Sea coast and also in the Yemen, and they've had a very good season, and that's why the numbers are very high, and we expect that they will increase in the coming times.
When you say they've had a very good season, why is that, Stephen? Is this in any way linked to climate change, or as far as the life cycle of the locust is concerned, is this just cyclical?
What about prophecy?
It's just the weather conditions, what we call climate change. The oviposition sites were available in the desert, the wet seasons, and vegetation all over, because we had a lot of rains in the region.
Stephen, why do locusts swarm in the first place?
Okay, the locust swarm, locusts are normally just solitary, but when they get together, that's what we call a swarm. Actually, a single locust gets together with others and they become gregarious. Once they become gregarious, that's when they start swarming and move about in large numbers. And they swarm in search of food, in search of good vegetation, and also following the wind direction.
Cyril, we got a hint of it just a moment or two ago in our report, but perhaps you can expand upon that. What sort of damage did the locusts do to these huge swarms, do to crops and to people's livelihoods?
So in terms of potential impact, I mean, what is clear is that the desert locust in the immature stage can eat their own weight every day, which is about 2 grams. So obviously, when we look at a swarm of 50 million desert locusts in 1 square kilometer, obviously you can understand the damage it can make on crops. For this particular season, I would say when desert locusts landed on crops in central South Somalia, but also in Kenya, luckily enough, that coincided with the harvest time, meaning that they have been landing on the leaves, but the cobs, the maize cobs, and the sorghum was already formed. So there is, for the time being, not tremendous impact on the harvest that has just been completed by December. However, there has been damages on rangeland, on pasture land. We had very good rains, and indeed that was a very, very big opportunity for locusts to get food there. Our biggest concern at the moment is very much we're in between 2 seasons. We have to understand that we are in between the short rain that has been ending, and then we have the long rain season ahead of us. And this is the main season for many farmers, but also many herders. And this is a season that is most at risk for now.
All right, so could the situation, Cyril, get worse before it gets better?
Yes, it could. Very, very likely, unfortunately. When we look at the life cycle of desert locust and the rapid multiplication rate, I mean, we are talking about multiplication by 20 every 3 months. So 20 times bigger in 3 months' time, 400 times bigger in 6 months' time. And that's why we need to control it in order to reduce the desert locust population below a certain number that would pose a threat to food security. So yes, the situation is alarming. We are witnessing in a number of countries. Somalia was there last week, but also North Kenya, where breeding has taken place, and then the new generation of locusts is already emerging, and that's a bigger population that is going to be reaching immature swarms in a couple of weeks' time, coinciding with the beginning of the planting season, and therefore really voracious and looking for green and young plants to feed on. Yeah.
Stephen, we talked about the Horn of Africa. How do you explain the geographical spread of these huge swarms of locusts?
Well, we could say these locusts have spread geographically throughout the region, and most of them have come from the region of Somalia and the Red Sea coast. And after that, they have spread to Ethiopia, Somalia, and now Kenya. And there are also reports. We have reports that they could spread to Tanzania, Uganda, and South Sudan. So it's going to cover a wider area, more geographical area than at present.
What preparations? Sorry, Stephen. What preparations should those countries be making now to prevent the kind of situation that we're seeing in the countries where these swarms are presently?
One of the preparations we are doing in the region is to follow the swarms very fast and to know, insects. These insects have a life cycle. Once they mature from the hatch into an immature adult, the immature adults will eventually develop into mature adults. And when the mature adult turns yellow, we are very keen on following them and marking the areas where they are laying their eggs. And that is a good thing to do, because after that they will hatch their eggs into hoppers. Now we'll be able to follow the hoppers and attack them before they can spread. Cyril, that's a very good strategy of control.
Cyril, why haven't the affected countries been able to deal thus far with these swarms?
Well, I think what is clear is that a number of countries have already taken a lot of actions, to be honest, since 2019 on the control operation. We are talking about Sudan, we are talking about Eritrea, Djibouti, all these countries, and Ethiopia to some extent. So it's not that no action has taken place so far. What has been the game changer is really the cyclones that have hit the coast of Somalia at the beginning of December. So the situation was reasonably under control until then, and then basically the cyclone has brought more moisture, more humidity, more wind blowing southward and bringing all these swarms towards Kenya. So the level of preparedness and alert was there, but the magnitude of the problem is not taking countries by surprise, but it's really overwhelming the capacity that is on the ground at the moment in the region. In addition, we have to understand the fact that the problem is beyond the Horn of Africa. It's also the Arabic Peninsula and Southeast Asia. So basically, all the level of expertise, all the experts that do exist worldwide, all the equipment that does exist worldwide is being mobilized in all these front lines to control desert locusts.
To what extent, Cyril, is there almost a collective amnesia as far as dealing with these locusts are concerned, in that we haven't had to deal with swarms of this magnitude for a very long time?
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the problem. Obviously, is that as we said in Ethiopia and in Somalia, they have not seen swarms of that side for 25 years. It's 70 years in Kenya. So obviously, you can imagine 70 years is hard to maintain the capacity in a country for 70 years for a problem that does not exist for 70 years. So there is a minimum capacity, but then the scale up is what is the biggest challenge at the moment is really the capability to have sufficient equipment, sufficient number of experts, sufficient number of monitors and equipment on the ground to control and do survey and do surveillance of all these swarms at the same time.
So, Stephen, once we've got to the stage that we're at, there are these huge swarms that they're devouring crops in huge numbers, how do you control that? How do you deal with that?
We have a capacity. We've had our organization, the Desert Locust Control Organization for Eastern Africa, which was created in 1962 at the prompt of FAO and by member states, 9 of them in the region, all the IGAD members, including Tanzania. We have had built capacity in terms of aircrafts and pilots and forecasting. And for this time around, we have deployed 4 aircrafts in the region. 2 of them are right now in Ethiopia, and a further 2 are operating in Kenya. And that way we are now overstretched, and the governments, the Kenya government and the Ethiopia government have gone out of way to deploy extra aircraft at their own expense. In terms of, like in Kenya, I know the Kenya government has deployed 2 military aircrafts and hired another.
All right, I'm gonna stop right here for like a time. But let me grab the rest of these scriptures and then I'm gonna end it off. All right, this Exodus chapter 10, verse 12, this is when it happened in history. It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left. And Moses stretched forth, right, so the Lord already hit him with the hail. Now he coming through with the locusts to eat the food, the rest of the food up, man. It says, and Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt and rested in all the coast of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there were no such locusts as they, neither after them shall be such. Slakia, Akia. It says, for they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and there remained not any green thing in the trees or in the herds of the field through all the land of Egypt. And it's giving you an understanding on what happened in Egypt, and it's the same thing that's happening to them people, man. All their food is getting ate up everywhere. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste and said, I have sinned against the Lord your power and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord and the Lord your power, that he may take away from me this death only. And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord, and the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt, right? So the Lord controls these locusts and how far they're going. It's all in Pakistan, from all the way over there in Africa, man. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. Right, so then the Lord hit him with another plague, man. So that's exactly what's going on now today. The Lord hitting the African nations with the locusts. And after that, he going to hit them with something else.